Greetings and salutations, my brothers and sisters. My name is Thomas Reed. Thank you. Thank you very much. Allow me to welcome you all to the Read My Mind Lounge. That's right. Today's episode deserves an appropriate atmosphere. I want you to sit back and really feel this one. This was inspired, and y'all know I don't use that word lightly. Mr. Charles Curtis Blackwell is an artist, a visual artist, a writer, a poet, and definitely a storyteller. Where I come from, what he has to share, we call science or gems. Either way, he's dropping it. My hope is that you pick it up. It all drops after the intro. Read
my mind.
Read
my mind.
Influence.
You ever heard of Rahsaan Roland Kirk, jazz horn player? He was more than that. Originally from Columbus, but he wound up in Newark. He was totally blind. He played 3 saxophones at the same time. He had them hooked together. He influenced a lot of jazz musicians, this thing called circular breathing, in one nostril and out of the other, and they're still blowing. You think they're holding the note. I caught him live before I lost my eyesight. Kind of influenced me years later. I said, okay, well, hey, let's just do whatever. Somebody said, hey, man, how you do that? I've done some crazy stuff with the poetry. I just said, hey, man, I'm kind of like Rahsaan Roland Kirk, man. You just got to get crazy on stage. Just go ahead and, get wild, I like jazz at an early age. They crammed classical down our throat going from 6th grade to 7th grade. It was Mozart, Bach, Beethoven, So I got turned off. I tried to flunk the test. Wound up in music anyway. Next semester, I transferred back to art. I was doing art before 5th grade. I remember the instructor, she pointed out this drawing that I did, had the whole class's attention. Maybe because art, it just came easy. I didn't know I was taking it for granted.
The Supreme Court rules in 1954 that pupils cannot be segregated by law on the basis of race.
I was in a busing program. They bused us to this high school from the neighborhood in Sacramento. I was 9th grade. I think I was around 13 or 14. They didn't want us there. The first day we got there was white folks with pickets. The end of the school year, it turned into a racial riot. 14 people arrested, one in the hospital, another one that's supposed to have been in the hospital. He was black. They arrested him instead. They didn't send him to the hospital. One of the most scary days of my life. I was small, man, and I was scared, man. These cats could fight. My folks made me continue to go to the school. I didn't really want to go. And it seemed like it wasn't a day past some racial remark. I don't know if you want me to mention those names on here, It really messed with me. There was one incident. They had a policy. You could put the gloves on and have a boxing thing. Oh, cool. This guy kept messing with me, shoving me into lockers, kicking me. But he always had his buddies with him. His name was Sousa. He was a distance runner. He was up for championship. This went from year to the next year. So I'm from the neighborhood, right? This year we had the same PE class. I told the coach I want to put the gloves on. The first coach, his name was McFadden. He was okay. He spoke to me. He says, okay, we'll call him in. I trusted McFadden. The other coach, he was a new coach. I didn't know about him because he wasn't there the day of the riot. The day of the riot, the teachers, they weren't breaking up the fights. They were yelling, you damn niggas. These were teachers. You couldn't trust nobody. The coach called him in. I'm busy, man, tucking my shirt in, tightening up my tennis shoes. I'm getting ready, They says, yeah, Charles says that you've been harassing him. You did this and you did that. No, I didn't. The new coach, he was sitting there. He jumped up and said, you are such and such a liar. I saw you do it. Man, I was knocked off my feet. They turned to Sousa. So what, are you ready? He says, no, I don't. I'm getting teed off. You don't want to box with me. They said, well, you want to apologize to Blackwell? I didn't want no apology. The dude apologized. The coach says, okay, Charles, can you accept his apology? I did, but I didn't really want to. All this racism, busing program stuff, I had poor self-esteem. I was like a D student. My idea was like finish high school, get a job as a janitor, and, bang, that was it. I didn't have no big aspiration. I got into reading. We had to write like a newspaper article. And the way I learned how to write was from reading the San Francisco Chronicle. They had real good writers at that time. And so that's how I kind of picked up on expository writing from reading the newspaper. I wrote articles for this class, and you didn't write this, someone else wrote it. This is not your style of writing. You didn't write this. And I got a low grade. That's whatever. Sometimes they give you a low grade realizing, oh, wow, what they really telling you that you got raw brute talent. I used to sell the paper. It was called the Sacramento Observer. It was a black newspaper. William Lee, he was over the paper. So I called the paper and spoke to him. I said, what if I write a story about these black students graduating from this busing program? It wasn't me. It was the class ahead of me. They would graduate. He said, yeah, write it and get it to us. We'll run it. I said, okay. Paper come out, and I opened up the paper and looked inside and looked on the back of the paper. I said, wow, that's funny. They said they're going to run the article. So I called the newspaper. Secretary answered. I said, yeah, this is Charles Blackwell. He says, yes. I wrote this article. They said they were going to run the article in the newspaper. She says, yes. I said, well, I looked inside the paper, and I didn't see it. And then I looked on the back of the paper, and I didn't see it. She said, well, did you look on the front page? I was knocked off my feet, man. I never would have thought they would have put the article on the front page. That was poor self-esteem. Man, I was just flabbergasted, man. I sold extra copies because I would go door to door selling the paper, man, I got to college, my whole world started changing. I was an art major. I was trained to do sketches. Funny, I was talking to you earlier about Rahsaan Roland Curry. So I had a copy of Downbeat magazine, and we had to turn in the final drawing, kind of like a shadow of the person. It's like superimposed, almost like shading. I did it with my 20/20 eyesight, just looking at it and doing it. And the instructor said, use the opaque projector. That's not right. I said, no, I didn't use an opaque projector. I just did it from a magazine. He downgraded me, but he was telling me that's how good my eyesight was.
Loss.
I was staying in Santa Cruz for a little while. I was with some friends. So we get in the van and go to the ocean, stopped at one place, and then we would go further up. The waves were coming in. So they get out, they go down. I'm in the van, I'm reading this book. A little while later, I get out, I go down, but I'm going the wrong way. I'm thinking this is the path. I made the mistake of allowing the terrain to halfway carry me. There was this big rock. I was going fast, and I said, well, I'll just go jump and go over the rock. I was assuming it'll be a slant. There was a cliff. I didn't know. Temporarily paralyzed on one side, concussion and internal bleeding. Broke one small bone, my finger. I don't know how that happened. Oh, man, I just knew I was going to die. By the grace of God, here I am. I was in the hospital for like a week, 7, 8 days, something like that. I don't know, man. Next thing I know, I'm up and going. I returned to my place in Santa Cruz. A few days later, I headed back to Sacramento and trying to regroup. I got back in college a few months later, finished that semester. Christmas time, man, we partied like crazy. I went to every party was. Next thing you know, I met this girl. I was in love, man. I wanted to get married.
The unspeakable artist, yearning, in, out of the room. If we sit in a dark room too long, we will meet the who in the form of a tormenting scream, examining who we really are.
I'm driving. I left school, college. I headed home, and I remember I'm at this intersection, and the horns are honking behind me, and I had to turn. I barely made it.
As fearless as we may be to ourselves, those ghostly cries are all of us laid out in the dark.
They're doing all these tests morning to night. They call it an edema. So it's where I hit, then the fluid went to a state of rest, and when it returned back into motion, it left my macula pale. Macular degeneration.
If we stay in a dark room for so long, we can see all the colors of the rainbow, which reside on the other side where tombstones, grave sites, pilferage and sorrows dwell.
They told me it's nothing we can do. It all comes down to God. That was the end, man. I just gave up. I just had dropped out of college. I didn't go sign out or nothing.
Magenta, unwrapped, indigo unveiled, and cobalt, for all those chants given up when the soul gave chase to something of an Eastern religion. For residing in a dark room for so long can cause one to worship the form instead of the creator.
It was like, what do we do to carry us through? And it's kind of bad, but I was out drinking, hook up with some friends, get a beer. Somebody else had some hard liquor. I was doing that too, drinking wine.
Many hails for the blood we feel running through our veins, flowing upward like the Nile to our heads. In the dark room, so sacred yet so cold, the skin can't breathe it. This tranquil rite of passage. Oh, woman, can you hear me in absence of gender? Nothing but flesh crawling in the dark.
The worst thing I think I did, I didn't know how to be Can you hear me any better? 1, 2, 3. That's better? Okay, I'll turn it around. I was raised Southern family, my folks from Mississippi. The idea of if you're going to be with this person, going to be married, you got to be able to provide. You got to be this man, the male role. It ain't about the male role, the macho, the strong. So that was a big mistake I made, trying to push her away, put her at a distance. I was 20. We get taught certain things, but we realize that's not going to help you in terms of dealing with life. All I remember, man, was being in the bedroom and crying, and day in and day out. I would never tell her that's what I was doing, which is really bad. When life hits in such a manner, what do you got to hold on to? Faith and trying to trust God and trying to believe. Might be somebody there that can help you build hope and help encourage you to live. Wound up at some friends. They were having a pool party at some apartment complex.
Predetermined mind. Predetermined.
I wound up sleeping at one person's house, another house. Had a fight with my dad. He snatched the phone. I was a psychological mess. This friend, his name was Ken, we had met on a bus, and we were talking. We discovered we were both born on the same day. He came and visited me while I lost my eyesight. He was from the Santa Cruz area. It was getting to the point I really gotten depressed. I mean, real serious depressed. And then I just kind of disappeared. Nobody knew where I was. I wound up at the bus station. I went on to Santa Cruz and caught up with Ken. I started a fight with the landlord. I was gone crazy. I didn't want to pay no rent. It really wasn't going to make no sense. I wound up sleeping on the beach. I got a cheap room at a hotel, something like $6 a night. I think I only had like 100. I would hang out at this bookstore and listen to people talking. I was standing on the corner, and these people came by and they said, "Hey, brother, do you know anything about Jesus?" I said, "Yeah, God and Jesus, I know. What I need right now is food, shelter, and clothing." And they said, "Brother, we got food, shelter, and clothing." I said, "What?" It was a Christian commune. So I went and stayed with them. They had me on the laundry detail. They had a secondhand store. I was with this other guy, the only other brother, and we would go and pick up refrigerators and stoves and other stuff. When I look back on it, things move kind of fast. January, I'm losing my sight and going just berserk in the head and crying and everything. Around August, I had disappeared. The early part of September, I wound up with this commune. From September till about January, I returned back to my folks in Sacramento. It got me back into the swing of things, not feeling like I'm going to be an invalid for the rest of my life.
Y'all gonna hear from me someday. Y'all gonna hear from me me someday. But the blue line escapes all the mental anguish, mental breakdown of knots tied up inside.
Curtis Mayfield had this song called Back to the World. I leave the commune, now I'm back to the world. The world is not the same as the commune. People there are kind of helpful and everything, and now I'm back in the world. I didn't know what to do. Even though I got back into the swing of things, I hadn't really adjusted all the way. Signed up with Voc Rehab. They ask if you need a cane. I use a cane now, but at first I didn't. Their main thing was trying to make a person productive in terms of society, getting a job, being trained for some kind of work situation. Then they had another part of going to college. It was a social worker. She was with the welfare department at that time. She was this white lady, and her isms started coming out. I made the mistake when I left town, disappeared. I was 21. I got a beer. I called her, of all people. I said, I'm not going to be here. I'm gone. Where you going? Well, I'm busy drinking a beer. I was dismantled anyway. Some people, they don't understand that because their whole emphasis was like, get you ready so you can be productive in society. Well, how are you going to be productive when your insides, you're a wreck? They don't comprehend it. She's saying, last time I spoke to Charles, he was busy getting drunk on the phone, and he was going to do this and this. And I was just sitting there, and I know it was God. Well, I just sit there and let it run off at the mouth. Words that have meaning. Then the guy from Voc Rehab, well, you don't seem like you really know what you want to do in life. And I said, oh, okay. And I was just agreeing because I was in a different place spiritually. A little time passed and I called him and I said, hey, I think I want to go to college. If you can get me 2 C's, we'll fund you to go to college. So I did summer school and got 2 B's, but I was trying to get 2 A's. They're always shifting. They got a different guy for Voc Rehab. This guy was totally blind. Okay, man, I go in to meet with the dude and we're talking. I'm saying, oh, this is going to be okay because he's totally blind. You know, he can relate to my situation, being partly blind, you know. We sit there talking for about over an hour. He's interviewing me. And at the very end of the interview, he says, okay, boy. Man, he did it in such a manner. I was just shocked. Words can help you be empowered. My dad wasn't the best communicator. I got back home, I was angry. My dad was waxing the car. My dad had a Cadillac. Picked up a red, what the heck, wax the car, maybe that'll help me. I told him what had happened. And my dad, like I said, he wasn't a real good communicator, but this was one time he said something. He said, he's testing you. He's testing me? Yeah, he's testing you. And that's about all my dad said. I milked that counter like crazy. Every time they had something to offer, I grabbed it. We had to bring our grades in. Well, it looked like you got some A's here, and you got a B and an A and another A and another A. Well, what kind of help do you need? Well, we got cassette recorders and do you need more reader service? I says, oh yeah. I get out of college. I could have changed counselors, but I know I'm gonna step this dude because I know what he's like. He was testing me, and I'm reading him. I get out. Well, congratulations, Charles. You can't go to graduate school. We don't have no money. We got a training program here. You can have a cafeteria in the federal building. I went to Montana, I went to Seattle, Los Angeles trying to get a job. Couldn't get a job. The reality hit me. Being partly blind, ain't no opportunities. I signed up. Went almost 2 weeks or a month. We're all sitting at this one table. This white dude is sitting on next to me. He's much older than me. He was losing his eyesight. And this other guy is across from me. He was Mexican, fresh out of Soledad prison, but he was in the program too. The guy in charge of the program, it was his cafeteria. The guy comes up and says, Charlie, my boy, you talk back to my employees. You can't remain here. You understand that? And I said, yes, just automatically. The white dude sitting next to me said, that was effed up. He was in his 40s. You know something's wrong. The Mexican, fresh out of Soledad, said, Charles, are you okay? I come back to the world. I'm being all, well, love one another. Be real open. Be kind to people. This is the racism of America. Even though I may change, the world hadn't changed. I had to deal with it some kind of way. That's the horror of this country. This is it. This is what's on the table. The next day, man, I scared the slop out of that man. I threatened that man like crazy, man. They called a meeting with another state official. The man had me, him, and the guy that I had threatened. All right, Charles, he says he's scared to be around you. But just what the F do you want? Words that can help you be inspired. I came up during the 60s, man. I was involved with the Black Student Union. We got 9 out of 10 demands for Black studies. And here this joker's gonna do something racist like this, right? You know how we learn from people. My mind went back to this brother. His name was Emil Palmer. He was head of the Black Student Union. The brother could deal. He was way older than me. I leaned back. I said, well, what you got to offer? You want to go to graduate school? I said, that sounds workable. I went to grad school. Real conversations can really help you in life. What is it that helped me? Having real conversations, like, words that have meaning, words that can help you be empowered, words that can help you be inspired. You got to deal with the race, and then you got to deal with people's ignorance towards disability, even with Black folks. You think they're going to relate to your blindness. You might know Berkeley is where the Center for Independent Living started. They were filing lawsuits way back in the 70s. You could be in Berkeley, it could be a totally different story as opposed to being in Oakland. You get to Oakland, you get people like, hey, is you blind? I'll be waiting for a bus. Hey, I'm trying to catch the bus. Can you tell me what? It's right there. Don't you see the sign? And I'm carrying a cane now. You try to say, okay, let it teach me something. Try to just grin and bear it. But if you're trying to hurry up and get somewhere, let's say it's 2 people at the bus stop. I ask somebody, and they say something ridiculous like, it's right there, just look at it. I just turn to the next person. I say, excuse me, can you tell me what's the bus? And then they tell me, and the other person, oh, hey, I didn't know you're blind. I know you're blind. I just walk off and leave them alone. I do them cold, but it's like, what can I say to the person? Every once in a while, a person say, oh, excuse me, I'm very sorry. Okay, cool. I walked into business before with a cane. I'm trying to figure out why are they paying such attention to me, but it's not a friendly attention. It's almost like, do they think I'm going to steal something? One of the worst things I got off a bus one day, and the dude said, hey man, you got that game down, carrying that cane, pretending to be blind. So I had some cuss words. I didn't say them out loud because it was nighttime. I ain't ready for no fight. It's kind of what they call the pre-antebellum South, the days before Helen Keller. A lot of this society is still like that. I'm a church-going brother. I remember I was at this church a little over a year ago. His friend named Joyce and Leo, hey, Charles, we're going to this other church. Come on, go. I said, okay. And I'm sitting there participating in the worship. And then the minister calls, someone here needs to accept Jesus. And this lady is sitting behind me. She ain't said nothing to me. She hasn't given me a friendly greeting or nothing. She poked me on my shoulder. You can go up now and accept Jesus. I've been sitting there participating in the service, and it's like no communication. She just automatically assumed, oh, you blind, you need Jesus. Sometimes there's storefront churches, and then there's a good old storefront church. That kind of backward condemning. Maybe the reason you lost your eyesight because you did something bad. You sinned. God is punishing you. If a person is really beat down, just losing their eyesight, if someone come along and tell them something like that, oh, God, man, they condemn to hell. It could take them years to get out of that. I remember this lady, and it was Kay Stewart. She had set up a program for the blind students at the college. And she was very hip, white lady from Texas, very, very nice lady. Matter of fact, she knew the racist counselor at Voc Rehab. She wasn't too fond of him. She was always, whatever I can do to help you here at the college, knowing you wasn't going to get all the help you needed from Voc Rehab. So she would do these cultural programs. When I finished college, she got in touch with me, and she asked me to go on this outing. She wanted me to talk to this guy. He was a white guy. He was just losing his eyesight, and he was condemning himself. You know, God this and God that. And I said, well, hey, man, no, that's not it. You know, God is not a condemning God. You got to find out about the love of God. I had a real good family doctor, and he would talk to you, you know, not like today. They running you through like a number. He said, you've lost your eyesight, take your defect and use it as your asset. Man, that was a strong piece of wisdom. And I passed that on to this other guy. You find blind people, man, they know the Bible backwards, forwards, sideways, and down. But do they know how to get out of that condemning? Do they know how to get to that place of being an inspiration to someone else and being inspired and being forgiven? I used to listen to Martin Luther King and James Farmer, Fannie Lou Hamer, you know. I'm in college when I could see good. I'm sitting in front of the library one day reading the article, and a dude came up and sat down, and it was Susan, and he apologized to me. And I'm looking at him like, what? I don't know whether to listen to him or grab him. He said that he was dating this girl that was Asian, and she confronted him, and he realized it was his father that had instilled all this racism in him. And I was listening, I said, wow, man. It was like a Martin Luther King story, man. This time it was real. One of the greatest lessons I learned, man, the minister told me, he said, never be ashamed to apologize. He said, be it 8 to 80. The lady that I pushed away, it was 14 years later, I got in touch with her. I called her, I said, I just want to apologize. She said, no, you don't owe me no apology. I said, well, hey, everything in my life is falling apart. I was in a writing project and it collapsed. Nothing's going right, and I'm trying to get my life right with God. So I just want to tell you that I'm very sorry I did what I did to you. And I heard her crying on the other end of the phone, and I realized I did the right thing. I realized that I hurt her. I didn't know I did. When we apologize, it's like something spiritual takes place on the inside. When we forgive, something happens on the inside in a good way.
Purpose.
I went to the college with my cousin, Anita, and I just went over to hang out. So I ran into this friend. She used to be a neighbor. Her name was Pat, and she was much older than me. Hey, Charles, and I heard you lost your eyesight. I said, yeah. And she was, very courteous and knew me. You come go to class with me. So I went to a class with her, and it was African-American literature. Eugene Redmond was the instructor. He was saying some stuff that caught my attention. I still remember he was presenting this book called Black Suicides. I was listening because I was at that point a year before because I lost my eyesight. By the grace of God, it didn't happen. Black people, they said, we don't do this, but here's a book called Black Suicide. We don't do it when in fact we do. And I says, oh, wow, this cat is saying something. Graduate school. One of the best things I did, I signed up. It was an independent study with Eugene Redmond. He was also the editor of the Henry Dumas collection. I don't know if you heard of Henry Dumas, but Henry Dumas did this poem I still remember. America. If an eagle be imprisoned on the back of a coin and that coin is tossed into the sky, that coin may dwindle, that coin may spindle, but that eagle will never fly. Henry Dumas was shot and killed by a New York subway cop. Redmond became the editor of the collection. Redmond did a book called Drum Voices. It's the history and the development of African-American poetry going all the way back to the days of slavery and coming on up to Hakeem Mutubutu, Sonia Sanchez, Amir Baraka. He was always an encouragement, and I got an A. Years later, I was having dinner with this brother. He was a political person in Sacramento, Grantland Johnson, trying to push for affirmative action years ago. So he had brought Eugene Redmond to the college for a part of Black Studies. I told him, yeah, well, Redmond, I took a classmate, he gave me an A. He looked at me, he said, Redmond didn't give out A's. If you got an A, man, you must have been producing some serious work. I kind of hung my head. I said, well, he liked my work. He said, I'm telling you, he didn't give out A's. You had to work to get an A. He really dropped a bomb on me. I kept in touch with Eugene Redmond. He's published me about 6 different times, Drum Voices Reviewed, and some other publications too. I realized, okay, God gave me this talent, and with this talent, he's kind of helped raise me up from that bed of poor self-esteem, lift me up and encourage me and inspire me. And I have to take care of this talent. I have to nourish it, be kind to it, treat it right, and try to use it. I'm at this place now, it's called Youth Spirit Artworks in Berkeley, working with homeless young adults in high school. I try to use stuff like, okay, let's write about the last time someone said to you, I love you. The last time you were angry and you felt like you wanted to kill somebody. How you see the situation where the guy is beaten to death on the street and the cop put his knee on his neck. Let's write about that. Let's write about mercy. What does it mean for you to be merciful to someone else, And I'm trying to use writing to confront. I really embraced the Black Lives Matter because we fought for the demands for Black studies. Apparently somebody was listening. I used to do writers' workshops in prisons, and I go in, try to be an inspiration and an encouragement to those people locked up behind bars with this talent that God gave me. I did a presentation at Folsom Prison, and this inmate, he wasn't sitting with his back to the wall. You had to pay attention to that. Other people sitting at the table. It might have been 10 people. This one guy, when it was over, turned out He was a point man in Vietnam, and he wiped out a whole family drunk. If it hadn't been for Vietnam, he wouldn't have did what he did. He says, hey, can I ask you a question? I says, yeah, go right ahead. He says, you lost your eyesight. Did you lose your will to live? Man, I was shocked by the question. And I really didn't want to answer his question. But you deal with inmates, they be real with you. It's best to be real with them. They'll protect you. I said, yeah, I lost my will to live. He says, hey, brother. He shook my hand. He said, I'm glad you made that decision to live because you've really been an inspiration here today. Man, that dude gave me a PhD. He stamped it on my forehead. I got to, like I said, be an inspiration, be an encouragement to, be it if I'm at a prison, at a school, wherever it is, try to take this challenge, try to inspire, encourage someone to live.
Art.
I started off being trained to do a sketch of you in a minute and a half, hand and eye. I can't do that anymore. I can't set something in front of me, draw it, make it look like realism. That's out. I had to take a different approach. When I got back into art, I was a Sacramento County CETA artist. CETA program, that's the Comprehensive Employment and Training Act. Jimmy Carter was president. I was doing stuff that I knew from college because I had been out of art for about 7 or 8 years. I did these large carrots, 7-foot carrots. These were paintings. The middle of the carrot, another piece of canvas sewed on. It was blue, called This Carrot's Got the Blues. I did these large pieces. I took styrofoam balls and I stuffed them with latex paint. And then I painted a jetzel over that. There was Braille dots on canvas. It said, do not touch. And then another one said, read this with left hand only. I was doing stuff that was workable for my blindness. Alan Gordon, he was the head of the art department at one time at Cal State Sacramento. He introduced me to the NCA, which was a group of black artists from around the country. National Conference of Artists. But even before that time, he says, oh, you doing some African art. I said, I ain't took no classes. He said, it's in you. Line, shape, color, rhythm, movement. I says, oh, wow. I've been doing more and more of that. I cover the paper with pastels, and then I come over with watered-down acrylics, doing line drawings or African masks on paper, or maybe drummers or jazz musicians on paper. And then I started doing African sculptures, playing saxophones or playing a flute, playing a bass, African dancers, using my blindness and doing abstracts. It might look like a jazz drummer, a horn player, dancer with all this abstract stuff, line, shape, color, rhythm, movement. I'm using my blindness to create the art piece and get to my own originality. I use my blindness in terms of writing. It's not what you say, it's what you don't say. Sometimes I'm producing art, well, I'll stop and I'll do some writing. So in a sense, the art is influencing the writing. I produce some writing, well, let me set this down and I'll produce some art. The writing is influencing the art, inspiring on the inside, giving me some encouragement and inspiration. I get tired of that, well, I'll go out here and catch a performance, a theater play, some jazz. I'll go to an art gallery and see what they're doing or go catch some poets. I might even sit there and don't say nothing. I don't even want to read, just want to, listen to other people. Right now, it ain't happening. I've gotten depressed. 5 months, I've only produced I finished one piece. I started about 9 others and finished one. That ain't saying nothing. I'm usually producing anywhere from 1 to 3 pieces a week. So that tells you, this thing has hit me in such a manner, and all I can do is relate to other people, and they're saying the same thing, and feeling uninspired. It's really hard to deal with. I wish I knew some answers, and even I try to get to that spiritual place, and man, I'm blocked on that too. I don't know. You got some ideas? Tell me. The sad part about it is I don't have a computer, and I use a visual tech that enlarges print, and I spend a lot of time on that writing. In some ways, I wish I had the hook up with the computers, but I think I'd be lost. I don't take pride in it, but I'm computer ignorant. You get one of these little 5 or 6-year-olds in here, and they know how to hit all the buttons and get everything just right. So I know I'm out of the loop. Whatever you can do to drum up hope, do it. I never would have dreamed I would be doing what I'm doing. I've been published locally, nationally, internationally. I've had my artwork shown. Some people have my artwork in foreign countries. I've had theater plays produced. Like my grandmother used to say, she said, Lord works in mysterious ways and has wonders to be performed. Maybe that would be my story. I look back on it, man, I'm baffled. I remember the lady was gonna date me. Oh, he ain't got no job. He's not doing this. He can't do this. Somebody else said, apparently you don't know the brother. My name is Charles Curtis Blackwell.
Well, it's a privilege and an honor to say, Mr. Charles Curtis Blackwell, it's official. You, sir, are part of the Read My Mind radio family. While Mr. Blackwell does not have a computer, he does have a Facebook page at Charles Curtis Blackwell. I'll link to it on this episode's blog post. I don't know about you, but I've been inspired. He said his art influences writing, and his writing influences art. That resonates with me. Inspiration from within. If you've been inspired, I hope you will let that influence you. Subscribe wherever you get podcasts. Transcripts and more over at readmymind.com. And yes, that's R to the E-I-D.
And that's me in a place to be.
Like my last name.
I was knocked off my feet, man.
Peace.